Hello everyone, I'm Lazar and I and my colleagues will talk about audio in video games. Playing a video game without sound would be boring, so there are three essential parts of audio: music, effects, and voice act. Music in video games wasn't always the same. In the beginning, when sound was first introduced into video games, electronic chips were used to generate 8-bit music called chiptune. Nowadays, music is much more complex. Developers arrange orchestras, bands, and composers to make music. They put an effort to make us feel an atmosphere in every specific situation in that video game. You will feel like you're right there, at a battlefield, football field, space, etc. And there are some examples of music in video games. And here are some today's most famous composers. And now my colleague Georgia will talk about effects in video games.
Hi, my name is George and I will talk about the sound effects in video games. So let's start. Most of sound engineers first of all make a well-organized list of sound effects for the game. So they start off by creating a list as complete as possible of the game's requirements in the terms of sound. They are realistic and non-realistic sound effects. So when you make a sound effects, you should simply be guided by the game. So in a realistic game, you should aim for realistic sound, for instance. Sound designers use simple libraries, digital synthesis, and analog gear. And there we have some examples of sound effects. On the next page we can see some examples of making sound effects. There we have some people recording sound effects in studio using different objects. And now my colleague Ivan will talk about voice acting in video games.
Hi, my name is Ivan and I will be talking about voice acting in video games. Voice acting for video games is much more difficult than voice acting for movies, because all the emotions must be expressed through voice alone. Nowadays, video games are much more realistic. Because of this, voice acting in video games has to be top notch. If the voice acting is bad, it will quickly capture the listener's attention and make the whole experience of the game worse. And here are some examples of voice acting in video games.
Granite team is going after the daughter. We're gonna watch their backs. Bird is down! Bird is down! Just get us as close to the roof as you can. Go! Go! Head for the roof! We need to get to the roof! Come on! Overlord, we have Russian tanks firing on Granite's position. Requesting fire mission.
Route to objective, ice pick. You got something higher priority?
Requiescat in pace.
Many famous people give their voices to video game characters, and here are a couple of examples. That was some information about audio in video games. Thank you for your attention.